I'm going to show you how to attach a curved waistband to your handmade pants. If your pattern came with a straight waistband, but you need to learn how to make a curved waistband so you don't get waistband gaping, I'll link a video on the screen so you can learn how to draft a curved waistband. This video is part 2 to that video where I'm going to show you how to complete the waistband of the pants. Now let's get into it.
We're going to start by cutting out 2 pieces of fabric from our pattern piece. Sometimes I use chalk to mark out the pattern before cutting, and other times I grab my rotary cutter and cut right next to the pattern piece. There's not really a rhyme or reason to why I choose one over the other on any given day, but obviously do whatever works best for you. Then after our fabric is cut out, we're going to use the pattern piece to cut out 1 piece of fusible interfacing. My personal preference is this mid-weight fusible interfacing from Pelon. I like it so much that I purchased the whole roll. I'll have it linked in the description for you if you're interested in checking it out. After that's all cut out, it's time to fuse the interfacing to the wrong side of one of the waistband pieces. To do this, we'll turn on our iron with no steam and firmly press the interfacing to the fabric for 10 to 15 seconds. Make sure that when doing this, the glue of the interfacing is facing the fabric and not the iron. For reference, the glue side feels textured and rough, while the opposite side feels smooth like fabric. Next, we're going to take the interfaced fabric and pin or clip it all the way around the waistband with right sides facing each other. I like to start by pinning the center back first and then working my way all the way around the waistband. Then once the pins are in place, we can take our work over to our sewing machine and sew the waistband down. If your pattern has belt loops, you can place the belt loops where they belong and sew them into the waistband like I'm doing here. After the waistband is sewn down, we can take out all the pins and fold the waistband up. This would be a good time to zip up the pants and make sure that the bottom of the waistband matches on both sides. Once everything is all lined up how it should be, we're going to iron the seam allowance up into the waistband. This way it will be hidden inside once the waistband is finished.
Before we finish the waistband, this is a really good try-on point because you have a good representation of if it's going to fit properly, which it does. The drafting process that we did in the last video worked and they look great.
Now we're going to take our second waistband piece and pin it to the sewn-on waistband with right sides facing each other. Then we're going to sew the pieces together. We'll start at the edge of the fly, sew a straight stitch to the top of the waistband, pivot to sew all the way around the waistband, and then pivot again to meet the opposite side of the fly. Once that's done, we'll take our work over to our ironing board and iron up the seam allowance at the bottom of the waistband so that it will be hidden in the next step. Now it's time to flip the waistband right sides out. Start by snipping away the excess seam allowance at the fly. Then, to make sure we have sharp corners, we're going to fold the seam allowance in right where the stitch is and carefully flip the corner out. We'll do this for both sides and then iron the waistband down so that the edges are crisp and all the raw edges are encased. Next, we're going to clip all the way around the waistband so that it stays in place, and we're going to hand baste the waistband in place. I like to use a contrasting thread for this step so that it's easy to remove later. The goal is for the thread to be in the ditch of the seam from the front side and catch the waistband all the way around on the inside. It's possible to skip this step and take the waistband straight to the sewing machine, but then you run the risk of not catching the waistband on the inside and having to do it all over again, so I prefer to baste. Once that's done, we're going to sew an edge stitch all the way around the perimeter of the waistband. I like to start and end the seam at the top of the waistband where the button will go. That way the back stitches will be hidden when the fly is closed. After the first row of edge stitching is in, we're going to sew a second row all the way around. I really enjoy this step because it helps add a level of visual professionalism and durability. Once the top stitching is all done, we can take out the basting stitches and admire our beautiful waistband. Now the last touches are finishing the belt loops and the button. We'll start by sewing a straight stitch across each belt loop where we want the bottom of the belt loop to start. I recommend grabbing your favorite belt to make sure that the loop will be big enough. Then we're going to focus on our buttonhole. I always like to do a test buttonhole on a scrap piece of fabric. I find this step really important because then I can cut out the buttonhole and use it as a guide so I know where to start the stitches on my final garment. After determining that, we'll put a pin at the starting point and bring our work back to our sewing machine to sew the buttonhole in place. Then we're going to open the buttonhole with our thread snips. Be sure to do this step carefully so that you don't accidentally cut through your stitches. Next, we'll grab a needle and thread and sew on the button or hammer it in place if you're using jeans hardware. And last but not least, we're going to clip all of our belt loops at the top of the waistband and we're going to stitch each of them down. A lot of patterns call for a bar tack at this step, but I've found that a straight stitch works just as well and is often easier for a home sewing machine to handle. If you choose to do a straight stitch like me, I would highly recommend backstitching back and forth multiple times so that the stitches are durable in the long term. And that's it! Your curved waistband is officially finished and it's time to admire those pants that you've put so much love into. Now if you found this tutorial helpful, don't forget to subscribe, and if you want to see more from me, click or tap the screen for a video that YouTube thinks you might like. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you in the next one.